Welcome to PACKOLUTION. In this podcast series, you'll hear the experts of the packaging industry talking about sustainability and the future of packaging. It is brought to you by Watron and hosted by one of its founders, Michaela Wachtel, and Sales Director Ton Kniepscher.
Welcome to another episode of PACKOLUTION, the disruptive podcast brought to you by Watron. Today we have Sharon Barak, founder of Solutum, as our guest, with whom we'll be talking about her unique innovation aiming to replace plastics. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sharon, now can you tell us a bit about yourself and your career path?
So my background, I studied chemical engineer a while ago now. And since then, I worked for different companies in the industry. I worked for Israeli military industry. I worked for a company that does recycling for organic fluid. And in my last job, I worked for a company developing and providing additive for plastic. So I was the R&D and lab manager there, and it was there where I was exposed to the plastic field.
And then you founded Solutum. So what led you to found Solutum?
I guess it started when I worked there. I realized that we are all living on plastic. I call it the plastic era in our time now. If you look around, just now when you're listening to the podcast, look around and I guess you can find at least 10 items made out of plastic around you. And I think that there are many advantages of plastic. I think that there is a reason why many things around us are made out of plastic. It's very cheap, very available. Actually, the production process of it is kind of sustainable. It's made on very low temperature relatively. So I think there are many advantages of plastic. On the other hand, because it's so available, cheap, etc., people are kind of abused this fact, and now we are mainly using it half of the quantity we're producing each year. So if we're producing about 400 million tons of plastic each year, half of it goes to a single-use plastic product, which means you use it for a very short time, and then you throw it away, and it accumulates in our planet. So then my awareness started. I saw that there are plastic islands in our ocean. I don't know if all of you know that we currently today have in our ocean 5 plastic islands. There is an island made entirely from plastic products thrown away, ends up in the ocean. The size of each one of them is about 3 times the size of France. So, combining all of them together, we will get another continent of plastic in the ocean, which cannot be a good sign, I guess, or a good thing. So I decided to do something about it, to do something for our future, and start to think how we're going to prevent those plastic islands from expanding. And this is where I came up with Solutum. That was the moment, I guess.
Well, to get to the key topic of this episode, your unique innovation. Roughly speaking, you've developed a material that can be used like plastic, but is dissolvable in water and biodegrades. Can you give us some details on that without going into the intellectual property, of course?
Yes, thanks. I can. So first of all, as I said, what led me specifically to find a solution that will dissolve in water were the plastic islands. So we were looking for, we have so many materials in our planet. So we said, okay, well, let's look for materials that can give us the same properties and the same benefits of plastic, but at the end won't harm the environment. And we looked at polymers that can dissolve in water and eventually biodegrade in nature. So we will prevent them. This is how we got to this specific solution. This is how we started. If I think about it, it was right on the beginning. We thought, okay, great. We have those materials that dissolve in water and then biodegrade, but you can only use it for, not many products, because not many products are not exposed to humidity, wetness, and water. So what we did next is we actually developed a unique mechanism that allows us to control how sensitive our material are to water. And this is the uniqueness of our invention.
I think this is where the critical point comes as well, because you do not want the material to dissolve sooner than you need it to dissolve.
Exactly. So in that way, we can actually control how sensitive the material are to water. We can predetermine how long it will take it to dissolve from the time it comes in contact with water till it will dissolve. This is, in general speaking, this is how we started. In reality, when we're meeting with clients and their needs, they're telling us, okay, it needs to hold on with this and this humidity, this and this wetness. So we design the product in a way that nothing will happen during the shelf life of the product while being in contact with humidity and wetness, and will only start to dissolve by coming in contact with a large quantity of water, preferable under movement.
What material is your dissolvable plastic made of? It sounds really interesting. Are they completely natural?
Without going into too much details, because we are under NDA and due diligence process right now, in general, first of all, our materials are fossil-based. We're taking materials fossil-based, and then at the end of life, they biodegrade. The materials, some of the polymers obviously are very sensitive to water. This is the whole idea. And some of the materials we are using and which we are mixing are not as sensitive to water. So in that way, we are kind of creating a protection layer on top of the polymers, the main polymers who are sensitive to water. And by that, we can control how sensitive the entire compound at the end will how fast it will dissolve or how slow.
That's an interesting development indeed, that you can control this, because that basically makes it usable for all kinds of products, not just limited to dry product or semi-wet products.
Exactly. The whole idea of what we're doing is to eventually find a solution to replace plastic. It will take a while, but the whole idea is that our material can integrate in the plastic supply chain, from the first thing that we're using materials available in the market, polymers that, and then we're using the same machinery and production lines available today in the market, also for the raw material producer, also for the product producer. So we are integrating on the same supply chain to have a faster go-to-market path.
How scalable is your product? How fast can you roll it out on the global scale? Because as you said, we produce about 400 million tons of plastics every year, and you want to be part of this value chain. How scalable is it?
That's actually a great idea, because, when I started the company about almost 5 years ago, I started, in small scale. I came from the field, so I thought I had a lot of knowledge of how to scale up, because this is what I did for the previous 10 years. And I started mixing the materials, and I thought, great, I have this solution, and now I know how to scale it up. 5 years later, it took us more than I thought. But good news is that currently today, we already produced tons more than that, like tens of tons on the existing commercial machinery in the market. So, and the same pace as we produce the regular plastic, by the way. So today we really know how to scale it up. We are now even looking how we're now based in Israel. So we're doing other production from Israel, but now we're looking also to do the production outside of Israel and to look for partners that we can use their machinery to scale it up. So the potential of it is huge. It is really scalable without even now starting to build like new facilities and new factories.
It sounds perfect.
Now, I want to go into the customer point of view, and I was wondering, what is the best way for the user to handle the packaging after he has used it? Should he throw it away in the trash, or should it go down the drain, or should he dissolve it in a glass of water and drink it? No, probably not. What's supposed to be done with the packaging afterwards?
So first of all, a small comment regarding if you can drink it. We are testing our materials if there are any toxicity to the environment. We are testing it in different kind of labs, and so far, also by the theory of the materials and also by the testing that we're doing, it's not toxic. So in fact, you can actually drink the water after you dissolve our products in the water. Not that this is what I recommend. I don't recommend take all our products, dissolve it and drink in it. But if you do, nothing will happen. It's not toxic.
Okay.
Just for that, just because you commented on your question. But the actual question itself, what can do it within the end of our life? We are now working Colgate Palmolive. We designed and developed and are producing bags for them. They're using those bags for they're giving about 50 million bags a year through dentists. They're giving it to dentists with their like kit, with their toothbrush. So these are those bags for them. And on this bag, we wanted to understand how the end user is going to use it. We put a barcode on the bag itself. And when you take it home, you can scan it with your phone and then with your family to show them. You go to the website and then it shows you how you're going to dispose it. You can put it in the sink and you can see how long it takes with the water. And it's very cool to do it with your kids.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
Like in the dishwasher, you can put it in the laundry and then it will go down the drain with the water. These are what you can do at home. If you put it in the garbage, we have several end-of-life way how it will be managed. If it can end up in industrial composting, it can be composted. If it can go to like recycling stream, if you wash it, it will dissolve by that. Also, if it's being collected properly at the end of life and the facility of where all the garbage ends up, you can actually collect our product and use it as a second life cycle, I guess. You can use it for like material for binders for the paint industry. So you have all kinds of way how to dispose it at the end of life. And unfortunately today, because lots of them are products ends up in the ocean, if our material will ends up in the ocean or in another water facility, it will dissolve and biodegrade. In your home, you can actually understand how you can dispose it in a sustainable way.
To take a bit of a deep dive into the technical aspects of the material, what sort of barrier functions do these materials have? Are they comparable to plastics?
They are much better than plastic, actually. We have barrier for oxygen. It really depends on which kind of material you compare it, but it can be between, 10 times to 1,000 times better, have better barrier. Oxygen can barely go through our material. And for oil, the barrier is 100%. Oil cannot go through our material. We can actually use it as a bag for the oil. This is another product, by the way, which we are working on.
And is this for under all kinds of circumstances? Is there a difference between warm climates and cold climates, or is this not relevant in this particular case?
It is relevant, actually, yes. In high humidity, barrier for oxygen can be damaged. We started, this is another thing that we're developing. At the beginning, our material were so sensitive to humidity that even like in a 50% humidity, they started to lose their barriers. Nowadays, we have went up. I think that around 70-80%, we still have very good barriers. Around 90, we're still working to solve this problem.
And that leads me to the question of shelf life. What sort of shelf life can you guarantee?
The shelf life are long. As long as the material doesn't come in contact with water, nothing will happen to the material. They will only start to decompose and dissolve when they are put in a tank of water, basically.
That does not include humidity as we have in ambient climate.
No, it does. It does, actually. We just need to know. One of the things that we are doing is currently we kind of tailor-made the specific formula for also the product, and we need to know what territories you wanted to hold on in.
So that means you can fine-tune it to the geography where the product is being marketed.
This is what we are working on, yes.
Okay, cool.
So are there already products on the market that use your packaging? I know you just talked about Colgate, but that seems to be a prototype. Are there any products that are already on the market and ready to buy for the consumer with your plastic foil?
Yes, we are working with some Israeli company here that started to use our products. And now we are with Colgate. The bags are already in the market in the pilot stage, and with other companies coming up.
Can you tell us a little bit about the price range your material is in comparison to existing materials? Is it really expensive? Is it a good price so that the customer says, oh yeah, let's use it. It's not a big deal. It's no big difference to the current material.
So it depends to what you compare it to. If you compare it to plastic, yes, we are more expensive than the regular plastic today available in the market. If you compare it to other alternatives, because there are other alternatives today to plastic, PLA, PHA, all kinds of other polymers, which give a solution to the end of life. Our solution is at the maximum cost the same, but most of the polymers we compare it to, it costs less.
We briefly touched on the country-specific peculiarities of the product, or basically what to how do you tailor it to a specific geography. So let me ask another question. How far can you fine-tune your material? Do you really adapt it to any specific product which goes inside?
Yes.
Okay.
We can adapt it, how to control it. This is a basic of our technology.
We briefly talked about specifications for the different geographies, and you mentioned that you can adapt it to the specific climates. Does this also mean that you can vary the barrier function of the product to the actual product, so you never overspecify the barrier function?
The limitation today is that for 90% humidity, we're still sensitive. The barrier is still sensitive, so it depends. Up to lower than that, but still high humidity, yes, we can. It can still hold on the barrier.
But what I also mean is that if your product needs a shelf life of, let's say, 12 months, you can actually tailor this to the 12 months, and you don't need to expand that to, let's say, 24 months because that's the way the product works. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's good. And your material can be used worldwide, but you need to adapt it depending on the specific area where it's being sold.
Yes, there is no problem to use it worldwide. This is what we hope to do eventually, work globally.
And do you find that the authorities in the global packaging market are working with you to find solutions there, or are you finding difficulties there?
I think it goes both ways. On one hand, we do see that regulation is trying to fight, the plastic. You have all kinds of taxes and fees on plastic. So that should help, all the alternative, mainly because of pricing, because if you have regulation on the regular plastic, so now you need to pay more for the plastic, that means the difference between the costing between our materials and the plastic will reduce. However, on the other side, on the other way, we are working to get certification, right? All kinds of biodegradable certification for our product. And the limitation there is kind of rough. I mean, some says we're going for all kinds of protocols, if it's ISO or the EN, the STM. And over there it says, like, for example, one of the protocols says, if you don't biodegrade, like 90% relatively within 56 days, then your product is not biodegradable. In reality, our product, it might take it not 56, 6 days, 100 days, 200 days. It's still much less than 500 years. So here we kind of have lots of difficulty to see how we're going to overcome it, which is kind of, to me, it almost is ridiculous because we have a solution. Doesn't take many years to biodegrade, but it doesn't stand under those certifications. Some of our materials also can stand under those certifications. Some we're kind of struggling yet. So, it's a yes and no.
Now a question among founders. Your company is a startup like ours. How difficult is it to gain a foothold in this mature world of plastic producers? Maybe you can also tell us a little bit about your experience as a startup in Israel.
As I said, I started a company about 5 years ago. And when I started the company, and I remember I wanted to raise the first money for the company because startup, you need money. And I told people, listen, I'm going to find a solution for plastic. And people say, great, you can hug the trees, basically. It doesn't sound super important. I hope that you will succeed. You will succeed with your mission. Moving forward, 5 years later, today, when I'm going and saying people, okay, I'm finding our startup, this is what we do. We find a solution for plastic. People saying, okay, where do you sign? And they actually sign. We actually get large checks from VCs, private angels, you name it. So currently today, the situation is so much better. The awareness is huge. We have the SDGs, obviously. So actually even investors, this is what they're looking to invest their money under for these companies that have a solution. So all kinds of SDGs, ESGs, and those kinds of, making impact and good to the world. Today, finding a solution for plastic, it's a good thing. It's very sexy as opposed to 5 years ago.
So has it changed within these 5 years, or is it also that your idea is more mature, so it's easier for people to say, okay, we will give you some money for that?
Yeah, obviously when people can actually see that, okay, it's feasible, you have the product, you start scaling up, obviously it's easier to invest in this kind of company. But I think, if a company starts today from scratch and saying, okay, I have this idea, I think that it will be much easier for them to raise money than it was 5 years ago, even if it's just still an idea and some proof of concept. This is what I think, yeah.
I think this ties into the big demand and the big need from the CPGs to come up with solutions for their sustainability goals in 2025, 2030.
Exactly. You can see it all over. We just finished a great accelerator. We participated in an accelerator. It calls 100 Plus Accelerator, where actually 4 companies were involved in this accelerator. It was Colgate, Coca-Cola, Unilever, and AB InBev, which started this accelerator. And you really see that all five companies are working together to find a solution, because the plastic issue and other issues, but the plastic is a very urgent one. They understood that at some point that they even need to collaborate to find solutions. It's an issue for our CPGs and for everyone. Yes.
So we've reached the end of this episode. Is there anything you would like to add?
Maybe more in a personal note. So when I started the company, I had this vision to eliminate plastic waste for good. And I decided, okay, I'm doing it so all of us will have a better world. 3 years ago, I became a mom for the first time. Now I have two beautiful boys. And it's even more important to me today. When I look at them, this is my drive. To leave a better planet for them. So this is me.
Wow, I don't think you could have said it any better.
Yes,
no,
nothing to add.
Nothing to add to that. So this concludes another episode of our podcast, PACKOLUTION. Thank you, Sharon, for sharing your experiences and vision with us. Very interesting for us and hopefully for our listeners. Please stay tuned in this channel for more inspiring episodes of PACKOLUTION with experts from the packaging industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think this is a wrap.